Welcome to episode 2 of the Refuel and Reboot podcast, where each episode is either about cycling, probably to do with bikepacking, or technology, and on the rare occasion combines the two. I'm Mark Gilmore and I'm the host of this episode. And in this episode, we will focus on the bikepacking subject. And just ahead of the Atlas Mountain Race happening this coming weekend, I speak to Erin Poland and Jono Freeman, previous entrants to another of Nelson Tree's races, the Silk Road Mountain Race. Erin, Jono and I met on the Alps Divide in September 2025 and spent lunch together on day 2 in Tendy before I blew up in the heat. I spent the rest of the race trying to catch up to them. I reached out to them for the Mind Over Mountains video, and some of their insights feature in that episode and video. This week they head off to the Atlas Mountain Race, so I thought it would be perfect timing to hear their full interview. So here is Erin and Jono.
You first?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Okay, well, I'm Erin, and Jono's my husband, and we have been biking together, I think, since we first met, actually. So our whole relationship is actually around biking and how far each of us have ever gone. So it's very competitive in that. Like one of my first things I ever said to Jono was like, "Oh, he biked here," and I was like, "Oh yeah, how far?" So that just kind of really solidified all of our stuff. And so I was actually really into biking when we first met, and just pushing myself. And then there was a charity ride that went from San Francisco down to LA. So I was like, "Oh, that would be great." It's called AIDS Life Cycle. And I was telling John about that. And so then we started doing bike packing, and then we did our solo bike packing trip across the United States in 2019. And then I think we just kind of kept leveling up of oh, now let's do an ultra, and it's fast bike packing and stuff. So yeah, we've been biking consistently, I think, since I've biked my whole life, but 2015 was when it was oh, okay, I want to do more racing or things like that.
Yeah, you were riding on a cruiser bike right before then, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Heavy cruiser bike.
But that's what made my legs so strong.
Exactly.
I was I'm going up these mountains in California on this 50-pound beach cruiser.
Actually,
Yeah.
that's a perfect segue. I had a similar story where I grew up riding a BMX bike because I got a kid's mountain bike and never really sized up. And so I started commuting by BMX for about 10 years and only finally got a 700C bike about 10 years ago to commute to work because it was faster than than driving in LA.
Yeah.
Because the traffic took about 45 minutes, biking took 45 minutes. So I was like, this just makes more
Well, it was
sense.
consistent too. Or at least that was my
Exactly.
feeling about biking in
Oh,
LA. I was
100%, yeah.
it will always
Feel like
take
you're
me
moving.
45 minutes versus if I get stuck in traffic. So you're that's appealing.
100%. And that was really within a year I met you,
Mhm.
found out you were doing AIDS Life Cycle, wanted to do something with you, already enjoyed biking just as the way it kind of smoothed the wrinkles in my brain. I would do that to process things just for fun. Yeah, so go from, 10-mile work commute to 26-mile critical mass every month to suddenly we're doing, 100 miles a day for there's the Midnight Century, and then we did it for
Yeah. Oh, then we biked down to
AIDS Life Cycle. Oh yeah, we biked to Mexico for New Year's. That was the
Yeah.
big first one. Yeah, to cross country tour, to finding about Nelson's races, to sleeping in a ditch somewhere in the middle of the night. Yeah, it's definitely traced the dominoes back. It perfectly tracks. But
I just love the way you throw in. Oh yeah. We did that cycle down to Mexico. You just kind of threw that in. I'm completely forgot about that. Yeah.
I know, I think it's always one of those things when you're not talking to non-cyclist friends.
Yeah.
It's oh yeah, we did this thing, and it's other people would be I'm sorry, you did what? You biked 150 miles, and we're yeah, just whatever.
Erin had a backpack on for that ride, and I had
we
a
had
fixed gear bike
no
with a
idea
single
what we were
thing.
doing.
We got caught in the rain. I don't think we had a repair kit.
No. The fact that we made it is wild.
Love it, but you made it. That's the thing.
Exactly.
I love it. Now, isn't that so? So there's an interesting transition here. So you were obviously, there's already the love of bikes. There's the love of, and then also biking together. But then that you were already doing long distance stuff. So that transition, if you think back to that first ultra, whenever that was, whatever it was, you think back to that first ultra. What was, what kind of made you decide to go for it, and then and kind of where did the confidence come from?
Yeah, there's a couple things there because I think we both have this similar gene of I I mean, you have a little different one. I definitely, so I have a friend, Conan Tai, who's amazing photographer, awesome bike packer. He did one of Nelson's first Silk Roads on like a Bridgestone MB1, like super old school mountain bike, rigid, and I looked up to him so much, and he'd been organizing races here um, that I really liked. It was like really cool, off-road, a little bit of hike-a-bike I was introduced to the term by him. And I was like, this is so cool. I want to do what he does. And he had this little zine he released of photos from Kyrgyzstan. And I'm like, this looks beautiful. I want to try this. Um, and ended up just kind of signing up for Silk Road as my first ultra.
No, you didn't get accepted into one race.
Oh, it's also because, I had done Unbound 200, which is a sort of longer distance gravel race here. Had a lot of fun, but was like, hey, I want to try a little further. I signed up for the 350, didn't make it into the lottery, and I think it was that day.
You're
I
like,
was like,
I guess if I can't get into a 350, I might as well go to Kyrgyzstan and then do this crazy ultra ride.
So your first major ultra was Silk Road?
Yes. I know a lot of people.
I feel we should put a disclaimer on the video at this point.
Don't do this.
I know, right? Like, they are wild.
I don't know.
But
it's sort of this thing where you're as ready as you're gonna be with any of these things, and you don't really know until you try. That being said, I, mentally the entire year I was coming to terms with thinking I was gonna die. I wrote notes to people the sheer level of anxiety once it actually hit that, oh, I'm actually really doing this thing. There was a journey of self-discovery and feeling the whole spectrum of human emotions on an hourly basis. But definitely recommend kind of easing into it a little more, but also I think you're kind of as ready as you're going to be, and you'll always make excuses. It's something we always say, even about the cross country ride, is find the time. If you want to do it when you can and make time for it, because you'll always find a reason not to otherwise. The longer you wait till I used to cliff jump as a kid, like the little jumping into the water, like 10 meters, 15 meters, whatever, not super crazy by any stretch, but the secret is always you look once to make sure there's water down there and people have done it, but after that you go, because the longer you wait, the harder it is to do it. That was part of it for me.
Wow. Erin, what about you then?
Well, I think so Jono did it solo, and then I had met him in Kyrgyzstan to meet him at the finish line, and just the camaraderie and just seeing everybody, I was like, I want to have this experience, I want to be part of this. And so, which is funny though, Jono thought that I meant I would go do it by myself, and I was like, oh no, we're doing it as a pair, obviously we're gonna do this together. What are you talking about?
Cool, I'll support you this time.
And I was like,
I love that for you.
Yeah, you'll support me by being with me. So I think for me too, it's just I always just feel I have so much gratitude. I have so much gratitude for being on my bike and being able to go places and see things that you can't really see. And so and then the fact that Jono had done it already gave me a lot of comfort. But yeah, so I just was like, I just want to go and see these mountains. I just want to go and make it to the top of this place and just really get to experience it. And I think there's something different about when you do it on your bike. You just feel so much more accomplished and just so much more proud of yourself, and you're like, oh wow, I just did that, and I just biked here. That's so cool. So I think that's always a driving force for me.
You have a gene that I want to unpack though, and I'm sorry to do this to you in a recorded format for the first time.
Oh God, I'm scared.
The fact that when Erin has a challenge that she's interested in, she not only doesn't want to, it's almost like you are incapable of doing the steps up to it. You will pick the biggest challenge first.
Oh, yeah.
And you have zero interest in doing anything smaller or leading up. Do you know what I mean? You're like, I don't want to run a 5K or a 10K. I want to run a marathon. I don't want to, go on a 1 day or 2 day thing. I want to do a 10-day thing.
I know.
And you pick the hard thing first.
I want to cycle across the US.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I don't want to cycle across a state. I want to go straight across the US first.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, we actually do talk about this, because John was like, you could start simpler, and I was like, that's weird. I don't know. I guess it's just the appeal and everything. Oh, but can my body do this? Can I do this other one? And I don't know, getting into each of those moments feels really good. So
Fantastic. I mean, you guys are amazing. One thing that struck me was whenever we met on the Alps and that, you guys were hilarious. You were brilliant. You just had such a positive attitude about things going on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where does that come from? Where does that come from, Erin?
yeah, I mean, I guess again, it's just that like gratitude. It's so fun. And I think it's like you can find those moments where it's like these glimmers of excitement. And like, I don't know, I think John and I'd always joke too. Like, if we're not having fun, what are we doing wrong? And like, so then usually be like, okay, I need to eat more food then. Like, if I can't access that part of me, right? So it's like, okay, maybe I need some more food. Maybe I need to drink some more water. Maybe I actually need to just get off my bike and do some silly stretches and like, so that
Maybe I need to sing a karaoke song.
I
Shout out
do
to Al.
sing a lot of songs. Yeah, yeah, make up silly songs about things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing too is I have just this mantra that I will say in my head about like it's just like this right now. So even if you're going up this mountain that's really steep and feels really hard, it's like, okay, well, it's only gonna last so long, right? Like it's only gonna be like this, and I only get this moment right now. Like I'm never gonna get this moment again. So I think that for me is like something that's so grounding. And then when you run into people, I think I'm just like, I'm so excited. Tell me about what you've been doing. Like that's
Well,
so cool.
it's a bit of a dichotomy, isn't it? Because we talk about these events as being, self-supported, solo, or even in a pair. It's within the pair that is doing it. And yet, I mean, Erin, you mentioned it. You kind of got hooked in on the community and the buzz of being in that group. That's very real, isn't it, at these events? And so there is a something that comes by meeting others on the track, even though you're doing it independently, even though you're doing it unsupported, but just there is a natural way to cheer. We cheer each other on in that.
I think there's also even like when you get into towns, like, or even like sometimes you'll see people, like I think in Kyrgyzstan, right? Like, the kids would give you a high five and it would just be like the highlight of their day and the smiles they would get. So like those moments would also like energize me, right? Of just like those like human connection moments of like, like this is so wonderful. So.
That's amazing. Okay, I'm going to change the tone a little bit because I'm going to say, has anything caught you out mentally or anything that going into an ultra, like for example Silk Road as your first? I still can't get my head around that, but so has there been something, what has surprised you on that you went, oh, actually that may be challenging my resolve a little here, then and I wasn't expecting that.
I'm trying to think of which direction to take this.
I know, right?
The auto lock on European washer dryers.
Oh, that was so. Oh man, that was like actually that was a huge Alps Divide was. John and I are usually so in sync and so, we just like I don't know, we just connect like and when our relationship is doing the best, it's honestly when we're on a bike and doing these things. But then for some reason, Alps Divide, I think we forgot, like, oh, I should eat when I'm descending. Like, that's still, my body needs food and stuff. So there would be these moments where we would get super hungry. And like, so we were in this, we were like, oh, staying at one of the, like, was like a hotel or was it like apartment or something?
Yeah, like a guest house thing.
Yeah, and we're like, oh, we're gonna do our laundry, and then Jono, it's like in a creepy basement though. There's no light or whatever, and Jono's like can't get the door to open, so he's like, oh my god, all of our clothes are in here. What am I gonna do? Panic. And like,
It's this funny thing because I mean, with the balance of these ultras, and especially, I think it's a little easier sometimes. This is the thing, people will say, what are you talking about with Silk Road? But the distance between resupply and the distance between amenities actually in some ways helps sometimes because you're not expecting it. I say, at home too, like the hardest runs and rides that I do are the ones where there's like a train every 5 miles because suddenly you're like, I could bail at any point. I could just hop out, right? So the reason I'm bringing that up and I bring that back is that we had been doing sink laundry every night, and even though or shower laundry actually, we like shower and clean the clothes at the same time. Pro tip. But the even with Alps, there were there were hotels and places that you could probably stay every night. But this one night, we had access to washer dryer. And we're like, oh, what if we, use this amenity? What it would be incredible to actually have like fully clean clothes this night. And it ended up biting us in the butt so much because it got locked in. We, didn't fuel correctly before we did it. So we ended up super hangry and exhausted. We didn't get a good sleep after that. So it's that thing of when you have access to, more comforts and more amenities, sometimes that can actually be worse. Sometimes it can actually throw you off your game versus when you're, sleeping out in a tent or something that can help like your schedule and things like that.
We were just like, I can't bail here.
Exactly. It's just like getting into those routines, knowing what works for you. And even if there's something that's like more comfortable per se, it might actually make your experience worse, which is counterintuitive.
Yeah. Well, I also think like, I do ugly cry a lot.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
I feel like I have all the emotions and everything on this prize. But it's just embracing it. It's like, okay, my body just needs to. I think there was one morning, I think it was actually after this night we didn't get to sleep. We had like a huge fight about the laundry, and it was like, I don't know, Jono, I don't know. Like, which sucks, right? Because I'm like, oh, I don't want to fight with my partner. Like, that's not fun either. And I'm just so tired of all these hills. Like, it just felt like it was like, oh my gosh, I go down and then I go up. Or like, it's like go down for 2 seconds and then I'm back up for the whole day, So that was like, hard. And I was like, okay, but I chose this. But then I was like, I'm just going to cry. And so I think for me, it was just like crying. And then I think even this ride, I was like, you could scratch. Like that is an option, Erin. Like that is something that exists. And nobody's going to think less of you. But then, of course, I'm like, but everybody is going to think less of me. And, and so it is that like grappling. And I think just allowing yourself to have the narrative without getting stuck in it, though, right? Where it's like, okay, you know what? But can you push just a little bit further? Or okay, just cry or, whatever it is. So I think like that one was definitely a little bit harder of just the like repetitiveness. It wasn't ever the same, but like the repetitiveness of just like I go up for another 8 hours and I'm like get a nice little descent. So like that piece was like, can I just keep waking up every morning and having to climb? Felt really challenging, but then it was you just kept pushing forward, cried if I had to cry for 2 hours, and just kept moving.
So is this another pro tip then? Embrace the ugly cry.
100%. 100%. Don't fight it. Because I do think it's like, you get it out of your body and then you're like, oh, okay, I feel better now. Like,
yeah. Well, you mentioned there in the whole scratching thing as well. It kind of reminds me of the Mike Hall mantra, don't scratch at night.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And especially if you're cold, hungry, tired, because that all of those things impair cognitive, function and decision making. So, and I think you mentioned earlier that if you can't summon up the happy Erin in this, then what's deficient? Is it food? Is it sleep? Is it my cold, warm? Looking at that's actually quite pragmatic in terms of the kind of the durability or the resilience in such an event. I think that's really interesting. Have you guys ever faced that scratch decision in your mind and in your head? Have you ever been there?
Yeah. Well, we had to
One time.
Well, again, I think for Alps, I kept contemplating it, but no, in Kyrgyzstan, I did have to scratch. I had broken my heel on the top of Shamshi. Granted, I didn't scratch what I probably could have because
Good.
There's a big difference between that C and an S, isn't there? Yes.
Which honestly, I think a good moment too within pairs is I think Jono did recognize that I had to come to terms with it. Like he couldn't push me to scratch, right? I think there was a lot of like knowing like if I force Erin's hand one way or another, she might have like regrets or there might be like a lot of the what ifs. Just for more context, right? We were like on the top of Shamshi, which is like one person was always like, he's like, Shamshi, ooh, big rocks, right? So you kind of like, we're like, okay, we know. Yeah. Which this is another thing too, is that I think something that I goofed with is I was thinking about being off the mountain so much. I wasn't being on the mountain. I was like, oh, I just can't wait till we're off this mountain. Like, just get me off this mountain. Because I just kept making mistakes. I kept like, doing all this stuff versus like just being in the mountain. But we were
So
like,
being present at the moment.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think that makes a huge difference. Because even like, if you're going through all this stuff and you're like, oh my God, I still have 4 days. Oh my gosh, I still have to get through this. That feels scarier versus like, I just got to make it to the top of this mountain right now. And then you're like, cool, I can make it to the top of this mountain. I've made it to the top of that mountain. So that I think breaking it down by each one also does a big, like helps my brain think of it more attainable. But we were on Shamshi and we were just getting frustrated. We were like, oh my God, because every time you just couldn't, it was all hike a bike, right? Even the downhill, you're like, cool, I made it to the top. Now I get to go downhill. And you're like, just kidding, I still have to walk. But we were like, what would the kilometers be in? It was 6 miles in. It was.
I don't quite remember. Like, what do you mean that we were at the
We
top?
were at 6 miles, which would be how many kilometers?
About 10.
No,
10
oh,
kilometers. 10
we were like 10
kilometers, yeah.
kilometers down from the top of Shamshi, and I hit a rock and broke my heel, but I tried to convince myself that I might be sprained it. I kept telling myself my ankle has never felt better in its life. I was like, you feel so strong. I was really trying to hack my brain and being like, I could do this. I've done a Hail Mary before where I like also hurt my arm and like continued another 150 miles. So John was like, all right, Erin, we're a day and a half from the finish. Like, let's see if we can, Hail Mary this and do it and all this stuff. But I was like, John, I'll just take my foot up really good. Like, we've got this. We did another 40 kilometers and how many meters of elevation gain?
I don't quite remember, but we were going into the 3 bonus climbs.
Oh, lovely! I love the way that is marketed. The 3 bonus climbs. Yeah, I love that. Yeah,
Just
absolutely.
The route that year, the way that it worked was that we came down Shamshi, and then you were hitting a road that basically takes you back to Bishkek. Like, there was a road there that if we had, gone down, continued down, very easy, we could have gotten to the road, hailed a car, gotten to Bishkek, gotten her to a hospital or something. And that was the decision point was, if we go this way, we go to a road, very easy access, or we go up to the bonus climbs, which, almost, they're not impassable. Like, there's a double track there, but it's like, we go back up and continue.
We're further
and then until we get over all
more
3,
remote.
we got back to the road. Yeah. It's like, what do you want to do?
So I was like, I want to keep going. I just like, I don't know. I think I also like had it in my head. It's like, as long as I'm still moving, I'm still part of the race. I still can do this. But there was a lot of like negotiation. And like, the thing was like, when I was biking, I felt okay, but it was definitely, I couldn't walk and there was so much hike a bike left. And we go from like going at a respectable pace to like snail pace. Like, I'm pretty like, tons of people just kept passing us. And so that was definitely like, oh gosh, I probably maybe need to do this. But then John was like, well, maybe we still have, we've got great time. We still, if we need to take a day and just rest and then get back on our bike, we could still finish it. So there was definitely so much negotiation. But then this lovely farmer, it starts raining and this farmer comes out and he's like, oh, do you need, like, you guys should, like, it's raining, it's bad, like, you should just come inside, I'll feed you could sleep. Of course I declined at first. I'm like, no, because I think I knew in my head too, if I stop, I'm out, right? But then you were like, I don't know, Erin, maybe this would be nice. We always said if a farmer randomly offered us a bed, we should take it up. Like, these are such beautiful moments. So
Trail magic.
Yeah. So then we went a little bit up, and then John was like, and I was like, okay, yeah, you're right. So, and they had like a 4-year-old daughter and like a newborn baby, and they were like feeding us. And actually, it turns out they had like studied medicine together. So he like was looking at my foot, and he made this gesture like this, and I was like, no, I mean, I should be able to bike tomorrow, right? And he's like, and then like they're like, do you want to take a horse? Can you finish a race on a horse? I was like, well, but
I didn't see anything in the rules about that.
Yeah, and I was like, well, it's still. But at that night I was like, came to peace. I was like, this is probably where the race ends for me, which is, disappointing. But it was interesting. I was like, I was mid-paddock and I was like, this moment is so beautiful, like being with this farmer and his family. And like, we stayed with them for like 14 hours. So, there was definitely like okay, this is so sad, and like what a beautiful way to end my race and like here. But it definitely took a long time.
Yeah, I think there's some really interesting elements of that you just mentioned there, especially the part about that realization on your part, Jono, that Erin had to come to that decision herself, and not it couldn't be something you imposed on that. Where even with the kind of more rational outside view of, yeah, that foot is broken. Yeah. So,
Like, this does not look good.
yeah, absolutely. But there's an that's interesting in the prep. So in the whole scheme of things, especially in the mental, kind of coming to terms with it all. So I suppose good. Here's the question: what have you learned from that? For the next event, it's we're a couple of weeks ahead of Atlas here. That you're heading to another Nelson race, and so you got a good idea of what to expect. Although it's a new route this year, but from that experience, I mean, and you've done other things since. Are there some key takeaways that you've noted from that experience in the scratch, as it were?
Yeah. You want to add to it?
No, go for it.
Well, I think it's just the like trusting your body, right? The slowing down, like slow it. What is it? Oh gosh, I always say it wrong. Slow is fast. No, slow is smooth. Smooth is fast.
Yeah.
So the idea too, it's like, hey, if I don't feel comfortable in this, I don't have to push it. Like I'd rather make it to the end. Because that was the thing, right? Like on Shamshi, I kept being like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know. And we were like, no, you can run it. And it was like, so I think it's the trusting your body, trusting how you're feeling, and then like taking a pause is not going to hinder you as much as you think it's going to, right? I think we get so like, I gotta go. And it's like, you know what? You could take 2 seconds to reevaluate and assess, and that's going to just do just so much for you, I think, in the long term.
Yeah, I think there's also a couple of things, which one is if you're experiencing something really difficult, like, there's a moment where you're going, 1 kilometer per hour or something like that, right? It's a hike a bike section, it's something brutal. There's two options. Either one, everyone else had to go through that same section and probably went about as slow as you did, right? So everyone's experiencing the same. Or if it's something like you're caught in a, snowdrift or a thunderstorm that people on either side of you didn't get hit by, there's a pretty good chance that there's something else along the route that they will hit that will be equally bad, right? Because it's very easy to compare yourself to other people and say, oh, this other person's probably having a breeze through this, or you sleep in a ditch and a person wakes you up in the morning by biking by and they found a guest house, a couple minutes before you, Dylan and Sarah. But at some point, another time in their route, they probably experienced a similar or worse, thing. At some point, it all kind of evens out, and comparing all of that or wondering about how other people, really can kind of rob you of the joy.
Well, you're spot on. So I am Lynn and I were chatting, and we were chatting about Col de Sommelier.
Yes.
And she went up a few hours before me. She went up the night and got there at like 3 a.m. I decided, I got to Bardenecki and I went, do you know what? I'm going to stop. I'm going to have a nice meal. I'm going to leave early.
Yeah.
And she said she had a great experience, but it was cold when she all the way up and a bit windy. But I mean, she got up and she stopped at the top. Me, I had the most perfect morning on a bike ever. Ever. So much so that
fantastic.
Absolutely. So much so that I took some pictures, and as soon as I got coverage as we came back down towards Bardenecki, I posted it on Instagram right there and then, because I was like, if I don't, something's going to wreck this day later on.
Yeah. That's such a, I feel like that gets back to just like being in that present moment and like trusting, like, what, my body would feel so good if I got a good night's sleep, I ate a full meal, and then I'll take this on. Totally.
But I think there's a lot behind the decision to scratch. That's the topic of a whole another episode that we could do and go into on that. But I think being prepared to be able to say, actually, it's wise, and be okay with that, and be I don't know. I mean, I had to scratch at Atlas, and I know it was the right decision, but yet it still niggles me.
Oh, for
Of course.
sure. For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Like,
And especially now that Atlas has got so popular that I can't get back into it to finish the darn thing off. But yeah, do you know, no,
maybe
I think
one day we're gonna
it's brilliant.
manifest it.
We're going to introduce. I'm going to badger Nelson to introduce the trio, and then I'll come and
Yes.
join on the back
Yes.
of you
Woo!
guys.
That'd be so fun.
Yeah, you probably have to do. Two of us would have to do it on a tandem or something like that. But there we
There
go.
you
Exactly.
go.
As long as there's 2 or less bikes, it's
Yeah,
fine.
that's right. Yeah, there can be as many people as you want. There just has to be 2 or less bikes. Yeah, a whole new category there. I don't think so.
Just a pedicab. Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant, brilliant. Well, are there any observations or anything that you wanted, when I raised this topic with you, is there anything that you went, oh, I must make a point of saying that, or bringing that point up, or thinking, is there anything of that nature that you think would be interesting, would be useful for people watching this, that would go, ooh, that's
Yeah.
insightful?
Well, I mean, I think so, right? I'm a therapist, and so I like, study how the brain works and stuff. And so there's this whole thing where when you smile through things, your brain has a positive association with it, right? So like this act alone. So I do that sometimes, and I think that also adds a lot, right? So this idea of like, even though this hill really sucks, I'm gonna smile and I'm gonna tell my brain we're having a really good time. And so I think Jono will talk about that. Be like, you were complaining the whole time. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. I was having so much fun. So there is this like idea though of like smiling and like really embracing it, because I do think like, the more upset, the more we can get like in that negative headspace, the harder it is. And I think that is when like scratching or other things can feel appealing, or these comforts can feel enticing. But if you learn how to just embrace it and have fun with it,
Mm.
and like again smile through the adversity in those moments, it will just help find those good moments, I think, and glimmers.
Yeah, I guess I'll plug this. There's a term I've maybe not coined, but I came to it by myself, as most things on the internet, but of enjoyance, which is sort of what we were talking about earlier. It's, endurance is about, it implies this idea of like everything is so difficult and you must endure. It must be as hard as humanly possible. And I think the skill that we're talking about, right, that Erin is like, I look up to with it, is um being able to find the joy and enjoy those moments, and like the skill of, yeah, I'm not having fun, I'm not enjoying this, what can I do to make it enjoyable, right? It's like, oh, I didn't eat enough, oh, I didn't drink enough, oh, I'm just like, if I sing a song it'd be more fun, right? And that skill, along with obviously basic survival skills and camping and health, like we're talking about the mental health, I want to go back and say you also need to be ready for the physical part of it
Yeah,
for a
absolutely.
second. But
that also, yes.
once you figure all that out, being able to, find the joy in every moment, is such a skill, and that, endurance of positivity and joy and fun, is in and of itself a skill that, and a muscle that you can train.
Very good. It's almost like you're talking about, we talk about type 1, type 2, and then this mythical type 3 fun where it never gets fun. But
Yeah.
it's almost like, actually I'm going to transfer what could be called type 2 fun. Actually, I'm going to bring that into the type 1 camp. I'm actually going to enjoy this while I'm doing it. That it is a difficult skill, I think, in some, and but I think that being able to elevate yourself in there is really quite powerful. And that, I mean, Johnny, you mentioned there about the physical preparation and the kit and the equipment and all of those sort of things. It seems to me that getting those things set bring a calmness and a confidence, then a peace, as it were, in our, from a mental point of view, to then be able to tackle when you know that your kit is dialed in, or that you're in pretty good shape. You know that you've done the distances before. That brings a confidence with it, I suppose.
Yeah. I actually want to plug one of the best bits of advice that Conan gave me before my first ultra, which is do something worse before the thing. Like, make it even harder on yourself
That's
than
true.
the actual event will be, and then the event will seem completely easy by comparison. He definitely said it a lot more eloquently and like in a little bit more of a rational way, but yeah, the idea is, if you've already experienced getting caught out in the rain and everything's soaking and you survive it, and you're like, oh, it's fine. Then suddenly that anxiety about what happens if I get caught in the rain, you're like, oh, well, I'll do this because that's what happened last time,
Mhm.
And knowing those limits and having those experiences of, you know, messing up, right? Doing the wrong thing a lot of times before the actual thing you're scared of. Suddenly it's not so scary anymore because you know what'll happen in all those cases, right? And still something surprising might happen, but you've already been surprised and you've shown yourself that you can figure all those things out. So
Yeah.
Like a self-locking washer dryer.
yes, that one. Now I know. Now I know. not
There
to
you
use
go.
that.
See,
Shower
but
and sink from now on.
but it's that do something worse than what you're about to. That's a brilliant. It kind of ties into the um, train hard, race easy
Yeah,
sort of
exactly.
approach, or or winter miles, summer smiles. Those sort of mantra. But there is a truth in there, isn't there? That if you've got a reference point to go back to, I've done this, so I can do this.
Yes.
I broke my heel on Shamsi, so I can get up.
Cool. Yeah, any of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Those three Hika bikes that I don't remember the names of.
Oh,
but
and
they were
Alps.
the three after checkpoint 2 that were surprisingly
the one up the one alongside Calder Izuad, where there's this beautiful famous road climb that's just fantastic. No, we went up the other side. Actually, it was more beautiful. It was gorgeous.
But it was
Calder Airs, it was called. That hiker bike, that did nearly break me.
Yeah. Totally.
Especially knowing how beautiful the road climb is.
Oh, we didn't know that. See, so that helped. We didn't have the
we didn't have the context of like, oh gosh, there's something easier and just as beautiful over here.
Well, it's not as beautiful, and it has got a lot more traffic. So there are distinct negative points to it, but it is rideable.
Arcadian Lee, you're vindicated this time.
Yeah, absolutely. We will tag them in this.
There we go. Yeah.
But yeah, I think those sort of things can really play with your head a little.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is obviously scratching is okay, and that's one that's tough to come to terms with, but like you should, work on that. But I think also thinking about scratching is okay.
Yeah.
Very normal. That's a big part of it, is that considering scratching is not like people think like, oh, you shouldn't even think about it. Because on Silk Road, Nelson, there's the famously coined Scratch City of Naran, which is right at the halfway point. It's, got a bunch of amenities. It's got hotels. It's got food. And so there's this whole talk about how there's this kind of gravity to it. And I felt that gravity, right? It's very hard to leave it. But I think people get so scared about even thinking about scratching that they don't even let themselves. And then suddenly becomes this thing where it goes from nothing to, oh, well, I have to. And it jumps, rather than, it will always kind of be this thing that's floating in your mind, and really embracing the fact that that's a thought, I think is pretty good. I don't know if you have anything to add.
Well, it's interesting because I used to actually be like, on that camp, I was like, I will not think about scratching. It is not an option. It doesn't exist. Like, I was very against it, I think, until I broke my heel, which is interesting. Then in the Alps, I thought about it a lot more, where most of the time, any races or anything John and I do, I'm like, I'm not done until I get to the end. So I don't know. I think there is some.
I had a whole plan.
Oh, did you?
I had a whole scratch plan that I worked out after our lunch, and me just imploding from the heat and lack of preparation and stuff. I had a whole plan. I knew I was getting to I can't remember which town it was. I think it was probably Saint Jean Marianne or something like that. And I had an exit strategy from there, which either I could ride the whole thing back, or I could ride down and catch a train, and a whole thing. And so I know exactly what you mean by that. And you made that interesting point about when there's resources around,
Your
it
brain
does.
does a lot of like.
Yeah, you do quite a lot of mental gymnastics with it all, and you go, I could do this, I could do that, I could get to Albertville, and boom, and you're like, ooh, and then it's only 70K from there to there, and it's all on the road, and yeah, there's
Yeah.
all these sort of things. Yeah, I think that's a really interesting insight, and yeah, and I don't know, as I'm going through these interviews, and I don't know what the summary will be with this. I don't know if it's possible to mentally prepare for your first ultra. I'm not. I'm not sure how to express that, but
I think it's prepare for the unexpected. Just like,
yeah,
like just embrace that you don't know. There's so much uncertainty.
Yeah, it's do like again, like I'll repeat the Conan thing. It's just do everything you're scared of, do that individually, right? Like, oh, I'm scared of riding in the rain, ride in the rain. I'm scared of riding after a night of no sleep. Maybe try, like, it's not great for you. There's no like training for it, but like try it out, see how you feel, right? And then you'll kind of know yourself a little better. But you're totally right that at some point you can prepare for each of those individual things, but there will be nothing, even if you do the same ride before the race, like the same route, you still won't be prepared for the actual race. And that's kind of another thing I think you just have to come to terms with, or, look once, then jump, right? Check that it's safe and then go. Don't think about it too much because it won't really help. It'll just make you more anxious.
Yeah, that's great. I'm just now going in my head because my what feels like my Achilles heel is I always worry and get anxious over slashing my tire, a sidewall slash in my tire.
Oh my
So
God!
I'm now going in my head going. So does I'm listening to Jono here. So does that mean I now need to go out in the New Forest now, and I need to go out and I need to sabotage my tire?
Yeah,
so I
bring
can
a knife and just you got the knife from Alf, the little really.
That's it. Yeah. Okay.
That'll cut right
Right.
through a sidewall.
I'll report back.
All right.
Okay.
You get stuck, you can yell at me. I'll cover your airlift out.
Believe it, I'll be. If your ears start ringing,
We'll
that's it.
We'll know.
Yeah.
Cursing Jono.
In the middle of the night because of the time zone difference, and you think you kind of get like, yeah, Mark's stuck in the forest. I'm so sorry, man.
Why did I give that advice?
Well, guys, it's been an absolute joy to chat with you guys. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining in on this, and yeah, really appreciate it. Good to talk to you.
You as well. Thank you so much. Appreciate you thinking of us.